Все. Снимаю видео. А?
Глянь.
Вон самолет падает.
Сюда иди. Сюда иди.
Снимаешь? Он еще, видишь, что-то падает рядом есть. А он еще. А, до него быстрее.
Жесть.
Это жесть, оно сейчас там не наткнулся.
Very interesting element of the story. According to TASS, again, 3 crew, 7 passengers on board, all dead, unfortunately, and we should, of course, be thinking about the families of these individuals tonight as well. The story is, of course, about Yevgeny Prigozhin, but there are innocent people flying the plane, crew as well, and a very traumatic and terrible evening for those as well. Now, Rosaviatsia, the Russian air accident investigation group, if you like, has opened an investigation into how this crash occurred, and they've also issued a statement, which we can have a listen to now, Peter.
According to preliminary data, the plane was flying from Moscow to St. Petersburg, carrying 7 passengers and 3 crew members. The Russian Aviation Commission is now carrying out initial activities at this scene and has also started collecting factual data on the crew's proficiency, the technical conditions of the aircraft, the weather conditions along the plane's route, as well as the operation of dispatching services and ground-based radio technical equipment.
So, Peter, these are the details we have right now, and there's a lot of speculation on social media. A well-known man, every outlet talking, a lot of rumour and speculation. It's important that we talk about what we actually know about this incident tonight.
Well, there certainly are lots of unanswered questions and mysteries surrounding this plane crash so far. As you said, it is a developing situation. But the plane was registered to Prigozhin, and it's reported that he was on the passenger list there. But it's too early to read anything into that just yet, though.
Yeah, of course. Yevgeny Prigozhin, this enigmatic, charismatic, world-famous man. There's barely anybody who would not know this man's name. Born in 1961 in St. Petersburg, a very colourful checkered past, had a few brushes with the law as a young man, one of which he spent some time in prison, and he got released early. He was pardoned, and he went on then to a really magnificent career as an entrepreneur, beginning selling hot dogs, moving on through the supermarket business in St. Petersburg, owning numerous restaurants, culminating in the opening of one of the best-known restaurants in Russia. And of course, but Prigozhin became best known between, say, 2014 and 2016 when the Wagner group, this PMC, private military contracting group, was born, based in St. Petersburg. It became a very, very powerful group, closely allied with the Russian state, working in Africa, in many countries, to assist military forces there. And Prigozhin at the head of this group. Of course, we all got to know Prigozhin that bit better in June of this year, when one of his very public spats with the Russian Ministry of Defense turned into an armed action, essentially, where he and a significant number of his fighters moved towards Moscow on a June evening. And, of course, everybody sat up and took notice. We had President Putin making a very strong statement, warning these men that this was an armed insurrection. They continued to come forward, and thankfully it was ended brokered by a peace where Yevgeny Prigozhin, this character, ended up going to Belarus, we were told. So everybody knows this man's name, so there's a huge amount of interest in this very dramatic twist in his life, or potentially death, Peter.
Well, yeah, well, talking about the interest in this man, how has it been covered, both the crash and Prigozhin, in the Western mainstream media?
Well, this is fascinating. I mean, any Russia watcher or anybody with an objective eye on what's happening here in Ukraine politically will see that Prigozhin had been anointed as a terrorist, the leader of a terrorist grouping, because his group had basically won the Battle of Bakhmut, a pivotal military battle in Ukraine. He lost a lot of men, but the Ukrainians lost a lot more. And he became this very focal figure for that battle. And of course, when you look at him, he was projected as a bad guy by the Western media, the leader of a terrorist group. He was very heavily sanctioned. He couldn't travel in the EU or in the United States. But as soon as he embarked on his march towards Moscow, he became something of a folk hero in the Western media, the leader of a rebel grouping that was going to clean out the Kremlin, and he became the darling of the Western media to some extent. When the deal was done, which de-escalated the whole affair quite masterfully, in my view, to end this without any more bloodshed than those unfortunate men that died during those couple of evenings in June, the West, he dropped off the map with the West. And it's interesting now to see that the US NSC have made a statement saying that they're watching the situation very carefully in Russia. And it just kind of illustrates this a la carte attitude to good guys and bad guys, which they have in the West. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Anyone who wants to cause trouble in Russia seems to be a good guy. Anyone who wants to fight for Russia or advocate for them is a bad guy. So it'll be very interesting to see how this develops in the Western media. They've even toned down their coverage somewhat so far this evening by saying that he may not be on the plane. He was on the passenger list. So it'd be very interesting what to watch, Peter. We'll be here to update you as it goes along.
Excellent. Well, we'll watch this space. Hope you bring us any updates as and when you get them. Thanks very much for that, Shay. Cheers. The country's Federal Air Transport Agency. The Wagner military group chief Yevgeny Prigozhin was listed as a passenger on a plane that's crashed in Russia's Tver region. That's to the northwest of Moscow. Now, a criminal case has been initiated over the incident, citing an article on traffic safety rules violations. Emergency services say that 10 people were aboard, including 3 crew members and 7 passengers. At least 7 bodies have reportedly been recovered so far. Well, let's cross over to RT correspondent Roma Kosarev for more on this plane crash. Roma, it's reportedly Yevgeny Prigozhin was listed on the flight manifest. But what more can you tell us about the crash?
Well, at this point, what we can say for certain as we don't know whether Yevgeny Prigozhin was actually on that flight or not. Now, many of the world's media outlets have already announced him as dead, but however, that information has not been confirmed just yet. Now, Russian media have been reporting that there was a manifest of the flight that Yevgeny Prigozhin was actually on this private business jet that was flying from Moscow to St. Petersburg. Now, there were 10 people on board, 3 crew members and 7 passengers. And that plane crashed halfway between Moscow and St. Petersburg in the Tver region. And according to the authorities, 7 bodies have been recovered so far, but we still haven't heard any inclination towards the fact that Yevgeny Prigozhin was one of those people, one of the bodies that was recovered. Now, we do know that there were 2 planes that Yevgeny Prigozhin's company had hired from this private business jet company. 1 plane crashed and the other plane had returned back to Moscow upon hearing the news that the other plane had crashed. So we have to watch this space and find out, until we know for sure who those people, those identities are. Now, at this moment, Russian investigative committee have already launched a criminal inquiry into this crash of the private business jet. Authorities are working on the case. We do know that the plane had crashed halfway between Moscow and St. Petersburg. And of course, Russian aviation authorities were quick on the matter, and they have already issued this statement.
According to preliminary data, the plane was flying from Moscow to St. Petersburg, carrying 7 passengers and 3 crew members. The Russian Aviation Commission is now carrying out initial activities at this scene and has also started collecting factual data on the crew's proficiency, the technical conditions of the aircraft, the weather conditions along the plane's route, as well as the operation of dispatching services and ground-based radio technical equipment.
Of course, there's a huge media frenzy around this case because of the personality of Yevgeny Prigozhin, who is the head of the Wagner private military company, who were instrumental in some of the cases in this special military operation by Russia. They were instrumental in liberating the city of Artyomovsk, also known as Bakhmut, and of course Wagner private military company have been known to be instrumental for certain governments around the world as well. Now, we are still waiting to find out whether Yevgeny Prigozhin was killed on this flight or not, but we're certainly all watching the situation.